What's going on, everyone? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're ready to learn some vocabulary. If you are actually in my class, we have discussed these words twice. So you can watch this video with subtitles in English. You can watch them in whatever language you are comfortable with. And I think it's a nice way to try to get to know these words that they appear in the novel we are reading, but you'll also hear them in almost everyday English. Some good ones here, I think. We'll even talk about a candy bar at some point, but I'm going to pull up the words right here. Yeah, I think we're going to talk about a candy bar pretty soon, but that's not our first word. Our first word, and hopefully you can see the picture. Yeah, ridiculous. Ridiculous. It's just very silly or not believable. And it's usually used in a bad way. And I have a sentence for you. His answer was so ridiculous, I couldn't believe what he was saying. So in that case, it's almost like this person is lying to you. You don't believe them. Don't be ridiculous. You might also hear that. The next one, discipline. Now, this can be used in two different ways, but the way we are talking about is training to improve strength or self-control. So when you're learning English, you need to have discipline. And what discipline looks like is maybe you take an hour a day and you study. That would be very disciplined. If you rarely ever miss a day, you set maybe a certain time, a certain place where you're going to study your English. So here's a sentence for you. To learn English takes a lot of discipline. You need to work very hard. You might also hear discipline for when somebody does something wrong and they get in trouble. So parents sometimes have to discipline their children. Sometimes teachers, if they don't do the right thing, their principal may discipline them. So that hasn't happened to me, I don't think, in a while. I'd like to keep it that way. The next one, love this word. Maybe my favorite word of the 9. I think we have 9 here. I tried to pick some verbs too. And since this comes from a story, a novel, a book, they're going to be very, like they're going to have a lot of meaning to them. They're going to be very descriptive. They're going to describe something. So you could use laugh, because snickered and laugh mean almost the same thing, but not quite. So you can look at the picture there. It looks like maybe a dog, cartoon dog, not laughing out loud, not ha ha laughing, just a little bit of a laugh. Maybe for some reason, if you laugh too much, you'll get in trouble or you'll hurt somebody's feelings. So you might just snicker. So the definition is laughed in a low way, like you want to hide the laugh. And I have a sentence for you. She snickered at the teacher's joke because nobody else was laughing. She did it quietly. So maybe she was the only one that laughed at the joke. Maybe it was a dad joke. Who knows? Maybe it was just not very funny. Something about it made her laugh, but she just snickered. She didn't want to laugh out loud. And yes, if we are mentioning snickered, I think we have to mention the candy bar here. So there you go. Snickers. I'm not sure if that has anything to do with laughing, but like in the present tense, like she snickers every time he walks into the room. So that could be kind of mean, right? I don't know why she's laughing. Maybe she has a crush on him or something. Or maybe he just looks ridiculous. I don't know. But snicker can sometimes be like a mean kind of laugh, like snickering behind somebody's back. Snickering. The next one, we got another one of these verbs. It's like very expressive. So mumbled. This is a way of speaking, but it's a specific, not easy for me to say. It's a specific way of speaking. And if you look at the definition, it means spoken softly, making it difficult to hear. So how about this? He mumbled his answer, so I didn't hear what he said. And it's probably a lot of people who are learning English, right? They are uncomfortable with how they sound, maybe, so they might mumble their answer. It is possible. There are some students in class who will mumble their answer and I can't hear them. Or it could be I am getting older. You know, I don't have as much hair as I used to. Starting to get some wrinkles. Although there is a filter on this camera that makes my skin look a little smoother. Yeah. But could be the student isn't mumbling. Could be I'm getting old and I can't hear. Hopefully that's not the case. All right, the next one. Familiar. Familiar. Something you know well. And it does almost come from like family, at least in English. Family, familiar, they sound very close. So you would imagine that your family is very familiar to you. Let me read that definition again. Something you know well. So hopefully your family is some of the people you know best. Yeah. So if you are familiar with something, you've already seen it. Maybe you are familiar with some of these words. If you are in my class, hopefully because you've seen them, this is the third time seeing them, like I said. So hopefully they are familiar to you. Here's a sentence. Her face was familiar, but I couldn't remember her name. So you've seen this person before. Oh, you may hear that in English too. Maybe you're out shopping or something. Let me fix this camera here. Like, hey, you look familiar. Where do I know you from? You might have a little conversation of trying to figure out where you've seen each other before. So you're familiar with each other. I'm familiar with Snickers. Oh yeah, I'm very familiar. Probably my favorite candy bar. The next one, another good like descriptive verb. It's not just walking. It's a special type of walking. One you probably don't want to do, but stumbled. Stumbled. Bring it all the way up here. So it's tripped or walked in a clumsy way. Hopefully you can see that person. It looks like they are stumbling over a rock maybe. How did they not see that rock? Come on. But that is definitely a person who is stumbling. And I do have a sentence for you. He stumbled on his way up the stairs. It was super embarrassing. You can also stumble over your words. So if you look at that person in the picture, think about that, but only when you're trying to speak. So I can imagine when you're trying to speak English and sometimes the words don't flow exactly great, you might stumble over your words. Fumble your words too. Fumble is when you kind of drop something. So a little bonus word, that is not from our book, but hopefully that makes sense there. Bring this up a little bit. Heel, very specific part of your body. You can see the picture I think really helps, but it's the back part of the human foot. If you can see that there, the back part. And it's not fun if you hit your heel on something or you get a piece of glass stuck in your foot, the back of your foot. Take a look at that sentence down there. I had a piece of glass stuck in my heel as I walked on the beach sand. So just last weekend, my wife and I, no, 2 weekends ago, my wife and I visited the beach. It was pretty nice out. And if you're walking barefoot, it's another way to say walking without shoes. If you are walking barefoot on the beach sand, Somebody had a glass bottle there. You're not supposed to bring glass on the beach, but if you step on that barefoot, you might get some glass stuck in your heel. Luckily, neither of us got any glass stuck in our heel. Couple more here. Three more. Unbearable. Make that a little bigger so you can see it. Unbearable. You can't do it any longer. Unbearable. I know, speaking with some people from around the world, specifically like Argentina, Brazil, Italy, it was a really hot summer. I think it's starting to cool down. I mean, Argentina and Brazil were having winter recently, and it was still hot. So, unbearable. I think that's my sentence, right? With the heat is unbearable. But, hey, maybe being in a classroom with a teacher, like it's unbearable. Like you just want to get out of there because they get on your nerves so much. I don't know. Hopefully not. But, oh, look, in the picture, it looks like this person maybe has like a sound that might be unbearable. Maybe like somebody singing or something. Just, you can't bear it anymore. It is unbearable. But I do have a sentence for you. The heat in the classroom was unbearable. We had to move to another classroom. That has happened in this classroom, to me at least. I think I get hotter quicker than most people, but there was one day in the classroom where it was almost 80 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is in Celsius. Hey Siri, what is 80 degrees Fahrenheit in Celsius? Let's go.
80 degrees Fahrenheit is 26.67 degrees
So,
Celsius.
pretty hot, I think. So the next day I wore a short sleeve shirt. I was like, man, it's a little bit unbearable. Luckily, it didn't get all the way to unbearable. I was able to stay in the class. I didn't have to move, but could have been bad. All right, the next one's a little tough because depending on what part of the United States you are in, you might hear two pronunciations. So, route or route. Same word, just different pronunciation. The path that must be followed to get to a place. So in this school, I think the example we used was the route to get to the cafeteria or the route to get to the cafeteria. You go back there, you go over there, you go over there. That's the route you take. Tomorrow, I'm not going to be in school, but I will be going to Boston. And luckily I know the route. It's a straight shot. It's just all highway to get to Boston. So I know the route to get to Boston. And this is the last one, I think. Miserable. Is it the last? Yeah, it's the last one. Miserable. Oh, you know what? Before we go on to miserable, I didn't even talk about the route sentence I have for you. I had to take another route to work this morning because there was an accident. This morning on my way to work, I was a little late. I usually leave in plenty of time, and I'm still, able to make videos in the morning and stuff, but I was worried that there would be a train crossing my route. Luckily, there wasn't. So I got here in plenty of time. The last one, miserable. We're ending on a bad one, but hopefully not too bad. Miserable, very unhappy or uncomfortable. Could you say very unhappy? Yes, you could. But English, we have about 50 different ways to say everything. So if you want a little wider vocabulary, miserable is a good word to know. I was so sick and miserable that I couldn't make it to school on Tuesday. That's not true for me. I just made that sentence up. But hopefully you're never too miserable in class, maybe towards the end. Some of our classes are long. So towards the end, might be a little miserable. Like, oh, come on. Looking at the clock, waiting for the bell to ring just because you were so miserable in class. All right. Hopefully this helped. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. Adios, amigos.